I am hereby officially pardoning Ryan Johnson of his heinous crimes against the cultural institution that is known as Star Wars. So I was supposed to put out a vlog last Friday, but obviously I didn't. Some weeks, you're feeling really great and productive and creative, and some weeks you kind of just want to play video games for the entire week. Who knew? But even though video games are a significantly smaller portion of my life than they used to be, they're still pretty important to me. And lately I've been thinking a lot more about them, actually. One of my first passions was video game design and video games in general. And I recently got the chance to do a podcast with a longtime acquaintance, Ben Reese, who is a professional indie game developer and has been doing it for a very long time. That podcast kind of reminded me about the passion that I had, because my life has taken other turns in general. I don't always think about games the way I used to, but that episode really brought it back a little bit. And so ever since, I've been playing some more games lately and just generally thinking about the industry. Anyways, this whole conversation got me thinking about my journey in game design, and I kind of wanted to share a little bit about that today. So I was first really introduced to game design in 5th or 6th grade this summer. I went to a summer camp at a local community college to do game design. It was 2D game design with a program called Game Maker, and it really sparked something inside of me. But it was kind of just a fun thing. I didn't really think about it any more seriously, and I was also 10 or 11 years old, something like that. But then in the summer of 9th grade, I went to another summer camp, but this one was a lot more serious. So this was a summer camp for making games in Unreal Engine 3, which at the time had just become the Unreal Development Kit, which was a free version anyone could use, so you didn't have to spend $1 million to license the engine. Anyways, this camp was taught by Ben Reese, coincidentally, and it really took a passion and blew it up. And all of a sudden, I started looking at it as a career path. And I did pursue it to some extent as a career path for a while. The problem being, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, which has virtually no game design industry, and what industry we do have pretty much exclusively makes mobile and social games, and I don't really care about those games at all. The kinds of games I wanted to make were console PC games, single player action games, AAA experiences. That's the kind of stuff I was really interested in. So in the latter half of high school and the beginning of college, I was working on this project called Wake Up Call. It was this big, frankly, way too ambitious project. I had this huge volunteer team that was anywhere from 15 to 25 people at any given time once things really started going. And I kept that up for 3 years, a little over 3 years. It was a really great experience. It didn't result in a finished game. Like I said, it was way too ambitious. But it was also the first time I really seriously pursued a project like that, so you kind of have to expect that. To this day, however, there is a reveal story trailer kind of thing. It is on YouTube, on the old Wake Up Call YouTube channel. It's available to watch if you want to go see it. It has 30 or 40,000 views. It's a great trailer. I still like it. I'm really proud of it. And it has some really great memories for me. I'll throw a link in the description for you if you want to check it out. However, ultimately I decided to abandon it. And then over the next year, I tried and failed to start up some other prototypes on my own, make some progress before I even thought about a team, because I learned some lessons along those lines during Wake Up Call's days. But none of them really worked, even though they were good ideas. I think most of them were pretty good ideas. And my passion kind of faded a little bit. It's still there, but it got a little bit, it got diminished a little bit. And it didn't help that I was going through personal problems at the time, trying to figure out who I was and becoming an adult and all that crazy stuff. But eventually I came to the realization that to seriously pursue game design as a career would be incredibly difficult. It would require me to make a lot of sacrifices, and I wasn't willing to make those sacrifices. I didn't have quite the level of unadulterated passion that's necessary to do that.
Mr. Blanc, I just buried my father who committed suicide. Why are you here?
I suspect foul play.
I am hereby officially pardoning Rian Johnson of his heinous crimes against the cultural institution that is known as Star Wars. I just watched Knives Out, the new mystery noir thriller directed and also written, I believe, by Rian Johnson, aka the guy who ruined Star Wars: The Last Jedi. But, you know, all jokes aside, it was actually a pretty good movie. It was not exactly what I expected, and it was kind of an unconventional mystery narrative, I would say, to an extent. You know, it's not Tarantino levels of screwing with, you know, how movies are supposed to work, but it definitely did not follow traditional mystery movie tropes necessarily, but it was really well constructed and fun to watch. You know, from the very beginning, the introductory scenes where they set up the conflict and the intrigue, and then they throw you a loop. The thing that really got me, actually, the thing that really stands out to me is they kind of give away the key plot point at the midpoint, or it actually might even be earlier than that. It might be like the first act break. It's pretty early on, all things considered, like the main twist. Of course, there's other twists later, which, you know, help to finalize the movie and make it not one-dimensional. But that kind of threw me for a loop. I didn't expect to get the answer to that question of who actually killed the guy so early. That said, even though it was a little unconventional, it was fun. It was just fun. It was fun to watch. I can't say I knew the full story all along. The mystery plot is full of just the right number of twists to be entertaining without being overwhelming, and the character development is actually really good. The characters are really interesting, and you really get a feel for them. And in particular, you have a really interesting relationship with the main character of the movie. And I won't say who the main character is because it kind of gives away the plot a little bit. I didn't see the trailer, so maybe they gave it away in that. But yeah, it was a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I really recommend you watching it if you haven't seen it yet. It's one of those movies you could probably just wait till it's on Netflix or Amazon, or just, you know, rent it. But yeah, I don't actually necessarily have much more to say. Like, I'd say it's an entertaining movie, a good solid 8. You know, it didn't blow me away. I'll put it that way. But it was good. I enjoyed watching it, and I'm glad I went to see it.
Tell me what happened to my grandfather. I think you have something you want to tell me.
But eventually, I came to the realization that to seriously pursue game design as a career would be incredibly difficult. It would require me to make a lot of sacrifices. Those sacrifices being having to move to another city, LA or San Francisco, or straight up another country, Canada or Europe, which I don't want to do. I like Phoenix a lot. As well as work as kind of a cog in the machine at most of these studios for at least 5, maybe even 10 years before I even get to a place where I could make any real decisions on a project, which is what I want to do. And all that time being subjected to poor work-life balance and less than great pay. So basically, when I did the math, it just wasn't worth it. Instead, I decided it would be a better idea to pursue something I could do locally, that paid well, that I was good at, that would give me the time, resources, the money to do this kind of stuff on my own. And so I went with programming, specifically web development, which is what my career is today, and it's a good career. It provides me with satisfaction in its own right, but it also allows me to do stuff like this blog, and hopefully in the future making games and doing all that fun stuff as well. To top it all off, actually, the thing that I think really put me over the edge, beyond the sacrifices, was that I was looking at the industry, and granted, this was a good 4 or 5 years ago. I was looking at the industry, and I was seeing a trend of a AAA industry that was moving away from single-player action games, which is like the main thing I would want to work on, and moving towards games as a service, which is not inherently bad, it's just not really as interesting to me to work on, and double down on a lot of problems in the industry, and would make a lot of those sacrifices that I'd have to make even worse. And you'd be even a smaller part of the game because there's a bigger vision you're putting together. These big games as a service projects are like 300, 400 people teams, whereas I would have much rather preferred to work on a 50 to 100 person team, because that would have been a lot more to actually do stuff and make decisions and have a real impact on the game. So, when you combine all the sacrifices with the fact that I probably wouldn't even get to work on the type of game I wanted to work on, unless I worked at one of a very small number of studios that are all very difficult to get into. It just didn't make sense. I just couldn't do it. That said, obviously, I still have a lot of passion for game design. I love video games. I think there is so much potential to the medium. And I think there are so many stories that are really well told in a video game format. And, I would love to explore those. Anyways, I don't want to make this too long. I guess the sort of takeaway is this is something I'm still very interested in. This was sort of sparked in me again by my recent experiences with that podcast, and now diving back into playing games again for the first time in a while, like really playing them. It sort of brought back that joy a little bit. Realistically, if I'm being honest, I don't think I'm going to do much with it right now, because I don't really have the bandwidth to do anything, unfortunately. But who knows? I might make a game in the near future. I definitely have a good handful of ideas that are pretty small scope games that could probably be made with a relatively small budget, relatively small amount of time, but we'll just have to see what happens in the future. For now, I'm going to keep working on this vlog, and thank you again for watching it. If you enjoyed it, maybe hit that subscribe button, maybe like the video if you're into that kind of thing, and as always, till next time.